Good morning. Thank you for invitation. My name is Klaudia Rosińska and I'm working in Academy of Social and Media Culture. I'm theologist, media expert and educator. And today I have this pleasure to have this speech about AI and spirituality and opportunities and risk for Catholic faith in the 21st century. I will start with generals. So now we, in popular language, speaks very often AI, artificial intelligence. But in this term, we have actually a lot of things. We have large language models, deep learning, generative applications. So it's a whole system of technological informatic tools, which we generally call artificial intelligence. And when I'm thinking about that in the context of faith and how it transform or challenge Catholic Church, I'm thinking of what actually AI mean and this technology mean for religious and spiritual life of Catholics mostly, but general Christian we can say. My aim for today's speech is that AI is mostly perceived in Catholic Church also as opportunity, and we can see how, but we should also think about it as a real threat for the authenticity of faith and personal relationship with God. Mostly when we have some ideas of or main points for Catholic teaching, we can have some opinions that Church views AI mostly as a tool. We have other presentations, so some experts say that it's neutral tools. I disagree, kindly, but it's a tool which can serve community, serve church, serve people. We will see the examples of these thoughts, this perspective. But also, in the end, it can be some kind of challenge for humans and for how human can use it in this positive or good way. This is strong conversation. Also, this conversation was built far before AI went popular, because it was started 20 couple of years ago when we have beginnings of social media transformation. Actually, right now we should see how teaching about social media 20 years ago was built on some, I call it maybe strongly, naive, techno-enthusiastic way. Because after these 20 years, when we called social media Aeropac of faith, I remember that it was official teaching. Now we can see that it's not Aeropac anymore. Maybe it never was. But now we can see very clearly that social media actually are anti-social media. So there is not space for debate, for human personal relationship. There is too much algorithmic interaction right now. So after this lesson from how we treat as a Catholic Church social media, maybe right now we should be more careful with how we treat AI. The discussion about ethics and human dignity is concentrated mostly about replacing human by technology. It's very important to have this awareness, but on the other hand, it's not enough. I will show that we should go further for the topic of humanity. Another aspect which are popular in Catholic Church discussion is, of course, moral responsibility. We will talk about Rome Call for Ethics, which we have some instructions how, from technical point, algorithms should be built. We have the values issues, the discussion about what actually value should be install inside of the algorithm, like justice, peace, solidarity. And of course, dialogue and cooperation and some kind of procedures, new ways of applying the artificial intelligence in some human social system, politics systems, but also academic systems. We know how difficult right now is manage students' work because most of papers are created by artificial intelligence. So we have to train students from the beginning how important is writing by themselves before they start using with AI. So that's the real challenge with new generation. And I think right now we are in this moment as an expert and as a Catholic Church that we really need instructions. We really need some kind of flags, what we should develop, what not. But honestly, we don't have a lot of documents right now. I mentioned previously a Rome call for AI ethics. It's all documents from 2020. And we can see there, I will show you six principles of AI. It's 5 years ago. And we can see that almost all of them, maybe all of them, are not respected. Transparency, it's black box. We don't know what there is. Inclusions, we have now a lot of issues that some people get lost, the job, and we don't know really how it transforms society, particularly in every field of economics and politics. Responsibility, for me, the case of big tech corporation who has very own way of thinking about world can do every filter or can project every AI tool as they want. And we can, of course, expect them to be ethical, but ethical can be understandable in very different way. Impartiality, reliability, and security. From a couple of days ago, example, which was mentioned previously about Claude. Security of AI, it's new challenge for a lot of experts because now we have one step more for protection, and it's challenging because we sometimes even don't understand how this algorithm works. So it's sometimes a surprise. But this was Rome call for AI ethics, created by Pope Francis. We see that the impact of these principles is probably not that big as we expect. But we have new document, Antiqua et Nova, and it's from this year, 2025. And from this document, I got big inspiring for how to see artificial intelligence technology as a challenge for, or even opportunity for redefining humanity and redefining our place on earth and also our mission God gives us. So in this document, we can see more deep reflection about AI, and it's worth to be inspired by these documents. We have also two popes of AI. It was started by Pope Francis. Of course, he was Pope during this memorable moment in 2022 when ChatGPT was created, maybe not was created, but was opened for all audience, for popular. And people start to using, so Pope Francis tried to moderate it how he could, but he was very, very focused on stopping enthusiasm of replacing human, more concentrated on economic issues. And Pope Leo XIV is going to go deeper. We expect his encyclic in that topic. He is talking mostly about human dignity, justice, and concerns how it impacts in young generation in the future. So we can expect this discussion is going to be stronger in church. For my speech, I was asking 3 questions, and this structure of this presentation is going to build on that question. How AI can be used or is used, actually is used already in the religious life of Catholics, but also what type of risks we can have in this communication. And of course, the question for the future, how does AI affect spiritual life in modern times, but also in the future? And when we talk about how AI tools are used in modern Catholic life or religious communication, we can actually mention 3 areas which is already used. Education and research. For catechization, for working at schools and all of this type of work, which is mostly based on some knowledge which we shared with others, AI is used very often. It's connected with also creating knowledge or creating presentations, some papers, even homilies. For example, some priests create homilies with AI. Other area is evangelization. Evangelization is always this argument, it was argument for social media also, that we should go with evangelization to the places which are without God. But as I said previously, sometimes if in this tool, inside of this tool is applied value which is against the God, it's probably not the best option to go there, because we cannot fight with something which isn't open for that topic. And we can see it in social media already, not AI yet, but AI is applied on social media. Algorithms on social media are made by AI, right? It's AI, so they promote types of content without this acceptation for good stuff or for religion, ethics, or community development. They create content or promote content who is against of that, who has polarization, radicalization, the content which makes people emotional, not reasonable. And if we want share positive and good content there and promote values there, algorithms doesn't want make this popular. They stopped it in some very small groups, and we create a lot of energy, but this energy is actually blocked for algorithms. So this evangelization argument, for me, it's not really enough for this work. But on the other hand, we can say that we can use artificial intelligence to have some pastoral work with people, and it can help us, for example, to create some good metaphors or to give good examples which we maybe are not aware of it, but in very short time we can find it there. So I'm not totally against of using an AI in that field, but on the other hand, it's very necessary to be aware of hallucinations, and we are going to talk about that later. And right now we have a big market of applications based off AI systems for prayer purposes. That was very surprising for me, because I was thinking that prayers is very personal things and based on relationship with God. But actually we can see that we have multiple application of how to pray effectively, what type of prayers you want. I create your personal prayer That's something which I think we should think if it's correctly and helpful for developing faith, or maybe it's actually something which make this faith fake. We'll see if it's good word. Example of real, if I can say so, AI tool, Nano Chapel in Poznań. It's a virtual chapel inside of real chapel, where you can ask your virtual assistant of having religious conversation or reading Bible or giving you some thoughts for meditation. And it's something which take care of you when you are during this moment. My point in here is the question why it's necessary, why we need to have some mediator to have this relationship with God. Do we need assistant, virtual assistant for praying or reading Bible? It's an open question, but it exists. Another tool, very popular, this is only example, but we have a lot of more that type of applications which are created to reading Bible, of course in modern way. So reading, asking questions to some specific topic, finding answers for some questions. And so it's very many areas of using, but the core, the data is of course Holy Bible. We have also more general application like Magisterium. We have it here also, which is application where we can find answer for Catholic teaching, more general, not only based on Bible, also of Catholic Church documents and teaching for ancient Catholic Church fathers. So it's useful. We can see if we want to find some knowledge, probably it's better to use this than general ChatGPT or other LLM model, because here we have very strongly defined core, which is data, and data is accepted by church, so it can be probably more precise than other. But still, the question is, do we really need that? This is a table made by Professor Aleksandra Petev from Economical University in Katowice, when we have some comparison how these tools are working. And we have additional app like Kate GPT, which is whole ecosystem cup, and it's more general than the other tools. But the case is that it's not approved by church, and we will discuss later how it's important. Another applications are connected with prayers. That's what it's interesting to me. That is a big market, and you can see even the titles of these apps, and they are very strong and emotional. But they offer prayers, spiritual guidance, sometimes even meditation tools, which is for me always surprising because we need silence in meditation. But I give you example of a bit controversial apps like Hallow. Maybe you've heard about it previously. This application was created for officially for helping people to pray. It offers a very personalized prayers for customers. But the topics of these prayers were a bit, how to say, unexpected. And for example, for commercial purposes, they offer, for example, prayers for being rich, prayers for some not really statistical offers. And it was criticized by community that it's just a business app which wants to make money for people's religious needs, like thoughts, like prayers and spiritual guidance. But this example is very important because it shows us that this area, spirituality, can be actually really taken by people who are not sharing this faith just for money, just for having a market and just for doing money. And Catholic Church should be aware of it, because it is always the challenge to guide people what type of offer could be helpful, what type could be destroyingful. And the risks which we already have with artificial intelligence in the field of religious and spirituality experience, it's of course four mainly problems. We have deepfake as an effect of using artificial intelligence, so created a lot of very real looked videos which are deepfake, and people doesn't understand the technology yet, so they believed it's true and real. And we can expect that in the future it will be easier to create that type of video, and it will be used, it was used, but it's going to be used also in religious context. Development of pseudo-religious content, I told you about this app, but it's more general. Ideological calibration and transhumanism is also the topic which I will mention later. This is example of deepfake, of using technology deepfake to create a portrait of Jesus and Mary, but based on actually academic research and using a lot of sources like Bible, like scriptures and all of this stuff. So I don't want to say that it's something wrong with that. It's just example of using this technology for religious purposes or academic purposes. But on the other hand, maybe you know this example, when you can use it to show some perspective of popular religious person. This is Pope Francis, and his jacket was stylish, like a popular jacket. It was built by deepfake technology, and on Twitter there was strong discussion how Pope Francis should wear jackets. It's not typical for Pope. So people didn't understood that this technology is fake. They was thinking that it's real, and I think it's still big challenge to make them aware. Development of religious content, of pseudo-religious content, is more connected to the way how we can create knowledge, let's call it knowledge, or relationships using AI. For example, on YouTube, we can find a lot of accounts where some person creates text and put it into the AI application to transform it as a video when Jesus speaks with these thoughts. But it's very easy to actually put inside of this Jesus very, very un-Catholic thoughts and unreligious behaviors. So that's a risk because especially young people use this type of content very often, and for them it's easier, for example, to listen or watch that type of video than, for example, listen priest during the Mass. And the challenge of how control that content, or how, for example, fight with that content, like this fight with disinformation, mostly is connected with that. But Catholic Church still doesn't have some policy how to manage the religious content. Maybe it's something which we should develop right now, because if on the internet is going to be too much pseudo-religious content, probably people couldn't find this positive content and couldn't find these good sources which we produce for them. And this challenge is necessary to take care of it. And the new type of ideological calibration is mostly connected with interpretation. That's always a challenge. We know from theology perspective that it's very risky when person wants to interpret, for example, Holy Bible only by himself, because that tool can be used by very not good interpretation. And here in the example of this application, we have very, very deep questions which people ask to chatbot, and chatbot use data to interpret their troubles and their concerns. And sometimes when we read these answers, we can see that it's not really what we probably know from a Catholic Church or from a Catholic faith. Sometimes it can be more connected to, for example, differences between some religions or some beliefs. But still, it's a challenge which Catholic Church should be aware. Also, theological perspective of mine thoughts is long term. I mean, we talked mostly about ethics, but mine thoughts, it's more connected to ontology. We should, in Catholic Church, more discuss about ontology of this tool, let's call it tool, but also about us, about humanity and God and relationship between these things. Because, as you probably heard previously on speeches, technology is a tool, like Marshall McLuhan said, who is the message already. So this tool creates of image of God only by using this tool. The content, it's secondary. First of all, is that using this tool influence our way of thinking about everything, but also about God, if we discuss this. Also affect our spirituality, because when we have regular relationship with God or with church, with community, we are prepared for waiting, because not everything is right now. But when we have assistant of faith, we can every time ask him a question. We don't have to wait, we don't have to be patient for that, and it influences our way of being. Because if we don't want to wait for something, for grace, for mercy, then we are going to be different type of people than we were previously. And that's my point, that even using something can create different path of us in general. And we don't know what type of God, what God will going to be in AI system, presented as in AI system. And topic of transhumanism is always, I think, necessary to mention a bit, because when we understand that in Catholic faith, person is somehow good because of God love and God's spirit and what we understand as a grace or mercy, and we need sacraments to have this power to be better. And it's very important that it's real, in real world, and it's real relationship with God, who gives us his mercy, but also his grace. But when we understand that in transhumanism, the people needs technology to be better, needs technology to develop there to be like God. It's totally different point of view. And on this point of view, these algorithms are built. So we shouldn't naively think that it's neutral, because it's not neutral anymore. Maybe it never was, because it's totally different perspective of humans than Catholic Church believes in. That's my problem with evangelization context. How we want to evangelize something which is against what we believed in. So maybe you feel that when I talk about being like a God, I use this metaphor of Bible tower, which is in Bible. People in every civilization wanted to have this access to something bigger than them. Also, we know it from Old Testament. But when we start to seeing artificial intelligence as a bubble, tower bubble, we can see that it's actually something which make us on the wrong path to the God. Right? We are going to recognize some tools. We are going to discuss about ethics of how to treat data, what data should be put into the algorithm, is it enough data or too much data? That discussion are important, but maybe, that's a question, maybe it's something which direct us for not good way. Maybe we should come back to the start point and start this discussion from the beginning. Do we need something which will be moderate our faith? Do we need that? Do we need something or somebody personalized who should write prayers for us? Do we need a virtual assistant for being in the church? Is it helpful to create relationship with God, or is it actually something which distracts us? Or trying to take our attention to some different or even wrong direction? And when I'm thinking about this metaphor, I'm thinking also about words. Because when we think about how language creates social communities, we should also think that technical language which is presented by artificial intelligence model is very specific. If somebody uses it very often, can feel that it's not human language. It's language which is very, let's call it distance on the one hand. On the other hand, it's somehow general, connected to some generalizations. And when we think about how social media influence young generation, we sometimes discuss that, young people cannot talk face to face, right? They cannot talk face to face because they are aware, they prefer text messages, they prefer communication by video or recordings. And we don't understand why. But they was trained by this tool, which was social media, to communicate like that. They was trained because they was born with that tool in their hand. So we should be critical about how AI tool, which was going to be very natural for next generation, can transform their way of communication, their way of creating relationships. That's my deepest concern. Because when we're thinking about assistance, we should also think about having everything whenever and how we want. Because algorithms learn us. learn about us very quickly, and real human being never learn about us that fast. So I guess it's very deep risk that in the future, if we start to use AI assistant every time, we are going to expect from real people to be like AI. Right? You can see it on Twitter, for example, when people discuss about something and have different opinions, most of them starts to ask Grok, tell me who has right. Grok, tell me what is truth. We can smile on it, but on the other hand, it shows us something. Apps are going to be more authority than humans. And it's a beginning. It's just 3 years after GPT starts. So after 20 years, maybe we can learn, we can read that, oh, it's better to communicate with AI assistant than with real human, because communication with real human is difficult. It's difficult to understand different person because we don't have access to this mind. We need to have patience. We need to have will. We need to have will to understand other person. And I think that's hacking of will. Artificial intelligence tried to train us for being egoistic, for having everything on time when we want. Not to wait, not to be patient, not to be careful. It's every time, everything what I want. And of course, this very, very strategic way of creating chat discussion, we every time get these positive messages about us. We always have great questions. We always have smart interpretation. Chatbot every time make us very, very well thinking about ourselves. Who has this conversation with real people? It's not very common because mostly we are focused on how to understand what other person wants to say and don't get all the times comments or feedback that we are amazing and our interpretation is amazing. So this type of creation can influence our humanity being, I guess, and that's the risk. And for church, it's a big challenge because church is a community, right? And in church, relationship between people are mostly important. People needs to be close to each other, to work together, to create something new. But if artificial intelligence is getting to be their assistant, it's going to be challenge for giving people this feeling of community. But it's very important to build trust to each other, to create some positive, also emotional or psychological experience inside of church community. And I think church needs to transform a bit for having this authenticity of being part of community. When we talk about proclaim the gospel in that kind of environment, I think we should listen more carefully the really holy Pope, which I really love, Pope Benedict XVI. He said that church needs to come back to catacombs, and most of people was thinking about having this laicism trends and this risk that not a lot of people wants to join to the church. But I think it's also connected with we has to come back to giving real life examples of living of faith. This type of authenticity, it's totally connected with humans stuff. So knowledge, interpretation, somehow of illustration. Maybe this is things which algorithm can do, but sharing pain, sharing difficult moments, being open for giving some personal thoughts, that's something which is only connected with grace and human being. And maybe this is a way which we need to learn from ancient church, to be real life Catholic, not Sunday Catholic, not only in church, but also in regular work, but also with regular contacts with each other. And maybe this is something which actually is a challenge or opportunity for church, which AI gives us. Because if I want to differentiate this world of faith and differentiate how I use AI, I have to first of all recognize in myself what type of human I am and how, as a human, I want to build human relationships. I have to learn myself, and I really believe, it's also from ancient church, we have to train ourselves. It's not like that, which some technology wants us to believe, that it's only about being or not being. Maybe right now we have some difficulties, or we think something is difficult, but we need to practice. We need to train ourselves. Maybe it's a time for coming back to cardinal virtual formation. For example, how to prepare our body. You have in last presentation this context of dopamine and how dopamine affects our body, our brains. So maybe now one of very important training is to training of our healthy using of this technology to prepare us for contact with God and community. And that's a challenge. We need to discuss how to do that, how to create some procedures, maybe how to prepare a pastoral path or a catechesis path education. But it's necessary to remember that if our body and brain is still busy and have this strong impact from technology, we cannot really be focused on something metaphysical or having this real meditation of God, because our body is not, from body perspective, it's not possible. And that's why people nowadays cannot stand 10 or longer in front of Holy Sacrament. It's totally difficult to stand a couple of minutes in silence. But our faith actually is built on contemplation. We need to help people to create environment in intrapersonal way, or interpersonal also, to having this spot for contemplation, for auto-reflection, for all of these necessary things which we call God's path. It's not only connected with knowledge, it's also connected with experience and training ourselves to development in faith. And I think we need, as a church, manage and help people to do that in new way, in the context of how they use their phones and how it can affect their relationship with God. And instead of discussion about ethics of data or other things connected mostly with AI systems. And I hope we can do that together and help people, because if we don't do that, probably we lost them, and we don't want lose them, especially for the God. So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope we can discuss it more later. Thank you.